I moved from being a really unhappy person to being a happy person, and my mindset changed. I started to experience success. Everything changed about it. It was night and day. Is you also have to be vulnerable, right? Listening is not enough by itself, because you also have to be relatable. And the only way you really become relatable is if you're vulnerable. So I'm going to go first. This is something that I learned a while back, is that by being vulnerable, I get to put down the things that burden me, by not having to worry about not being true to myself and not being authentic. So I'm going to tell my story, right? And I've gotten into a lot of training classes. Some of you probably were in a training class where I got in and shared, what's my story? How did I get into this business? What is the, stuff that I've dealt with in my life, and how did I end up here? So I was going through a divorce. I've been in construction since 1992, but custom home builder, real estate agent, property developer. Just got tired of doing that, and then I ended up in a situation where I had taken a job out of state for 1 year and was, trying to keep a marriage together that was failing. Not a bad person, just a bad match, right? And it was long. It was over 20 years. But I grew up in a household where my parents were divorced. I didn't feel much love when I was a kid. My parents were too focused on their problems to give much love. They were trying to just survive themselves, I think. And so, you figure out that, hey, I got to fend for myself at some point or another. So, going clear back, my story starts with changing. At one point, I changed 30 miles of sprinkler pipe a day one summer. 30 miles. That's going back and forth. That was 30 linear miles of sprinkler pipe. I was doing triple sets, 10 sets, 10 miles each morning, afternoon, and evening. So I was killing myself. And then I went into construction. I was killing myself, lifting up walls that nobody should lift up, killing my back, and I have back problems to this day because of it, right? But I learned the construction business really, really well. Done everything in construction. I know this business. But then, years go by, bad marriage, raising kids. I have great kids, love my kids. Obviously, they're here, 2 of them. But in divorce, you're losing a big part of yourself. After 20 years, you don't even know who you are anymore. Even though it was bad, you're still completely lost. Totally depressed. And literally I was driving down the freeway between Meridian and Nampa one day, and I just looked at the 10-mile overpass and those concrete pylons, and I just said to myself, I got 2 choices here. I can just pile into that and just finish this off right now, or I can decide to change my life. I was living in my buddy's basement at the time, after having moved back from Iowa, where I'd spent 1 year working for another company. And I was like, I'm not going to pile myself into a concrete pylon, so I'm going to change my life. And I know I'm not going to feel like it, but I'm going to do it. And I think that's one of the things that is hard for a lot of people to do, and I would really encourage you guys to deliberately learn, which is figure out what you need to change and then do it whether or not you feel like it until you feel like it. So to set the stage a little bit further, I was living in my buddy's basement. I had a little bit of a residual income stream that was going to last me for about 9 or 10 months, where I was getting $900 a month coming in. It was just from the savings and some cash that was like in this annuity that I was pulling out. $900 a month is what I was living on. I was getting $400 to my ex to take care of kids out of that $900. I was giving $300 to my best friend for his basement to rent from him. And I was buying my food on the extra couple hundred and figuring out how to scrape by on insurance and gas for everything else, picking up whatever dollars I could here and there. I'd also spent a couple of months working for Traeger at that point in time. I was on the road show because I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. Didn't know. So they were flying me all over the country, spending 10 days straight working bell to bell and in Costco trying to sell Traegers, pitching. pitchman, you know. I literally did that for like 2 or 3 months. Interesting experience. But then a friend of mine opened a roofing company in Boise. He says, hey, you can get off the road, you can come do sales for me. 1099, you know, so independent contractor. And I was like, all right, sweet, I'll go do that. So I went over there, still totally depressed, but was trying to figure out how to change my life. And guy calls me up and says, hey, my neighbors are getting their roofs all paid for. I was like, all right, I don't know what that's all about. So I went over there one day and talked to him. He's like, yeah, I guess their insurance companies are paying for their roofs. There was a hailstorm here in town. I was like, oh, all right. I knew nothing about it, but I quickly learned that, hey, this is a thing. And so in the next 30 days, I went out and sold 18 roofs in this one neighborhood. I was like, this is awesome. I'm killing it. I was commission only. But after 30 days, I went back to the guy that owned this roofing company and said, hey man, why aren't you getting any of my installs done? Because I'm tired of living on $900 a month, number one. I had wrecked my Mustang when I was working for Traeger, 75, 80 miles an hour into a rock wall at Whitebird Pass outside of Grangeville, black ice. The fog settles on top of the hill and creates black ice even when all the other roads are completely dry. Didn't know that, obviously, right? Thought I was gonna die, knocked me out, totaled the car. So I was driving my dad's field truck. And when I say field truck, I mean field truck. This thing had plastered on, like with a trowel, Bondo on the side, big green camper shell, old Chevy. It had been sitting in his field for about 3 or 4 years. So mice had moved into the shell, into the cab. So it smelled like mice. So anytime you drove it, you had to roll down all the windows to make sure that you could just breathe. And so I'm out selling my 18 roofs, smelling like a dead mouse or a mouse turd as I'm driving down the road, waving to every neighbor in the neighborhood, just trying to get to know him and make these sales. But I did really well. But this guy, Todd, he didn't get any of my installs done. At the end of the month, I went to him and I said, Todd, man, what's going on? Why aren't you getting my installs done? I'm kicking it. I'm killing it. I'm beating he had like 4 or 5 sales guys. I was his top sales guy by a mile. And he's like, yeah, you know, I thought about it. I just don't want to do insurance work. I just want to do cash work. Every other one of his other sales guys was all just doing high-end cash stuff. They were going and knocking on the big houses with the shakes and all that kind of stuff. What's wrong, man? He's like, I just don't want to deal with the insurance companies. Not gonna do it. I don't want to wait for the money. I think he was maybe, you know, having a hard time with his cash flow or something. I'm not sure. He says, I'm just gonna let those all go. Sorry. I was like, what? You kidding me, right? And so I figured it was a cash flow problem. So I said, listen, how about this? I will go hire a crew. I'll come up with the money. I'll go hire a crew. I'll buy a dump trailer. I will install it. You can pay me $10.99 as the install guy and as the salesman. Just run this stuff through your books so I don't have to get all the insurances, because I've been a contractor. I was going through this divorce. I was depressed. I didn't want to do all the paperwork stuff. I just wanted to get the job done, but I was doing whatever I had to do to get it done to make sure I'd done it, because I just spent a month getting 18 jobs. So he said, all right, I guess. So he goes and I go and hire like this 5-man crew. Took him a week to do the first 20 square roof. No kidding. With this used small dump trailer, right? And I get done with the job and I'm like, all right, there you go, man. He's like, nah, I'm just gonna terminate it. They can deal with their insurance company. I'm not running through my books. Sorry you hired these guys. Sorry you bought the dump trailer. I'm letting them all go. It's not happening. All right, man, listen, I'm gonna go back into business for myself. I really don't want to, but you're forcing my hand. And he just looked at me and said, and we're friends to this day. He said, cool, man, go ahead. Right? Crazy. Just freaking crazy. So I did. Went and got my insurance, filed my paperwork, got everything up and going. And I went back to all those 18 customers and said, hey, this guy that was working for you decided he didn't want to do your roof, so I got a new contract, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. And they all turned, every single one of them, didn't have a problem.
Did you get the contract once, you got it twice?
Got it twice. Went out there and got my crew. I found a couple of sub crews also, so that people didn't have to wait so long. And we cracked through those roofs in the next 30 days, and I kept on selling. And I was like, damn, this is good. This is amazing. But I was convinced that hail wouldn't last and that this was definitely like a short-term thing. So, I worked on it for a couple of months, just myself as a salesman. I hired my dad because I was selling enough that needed somebody to help run that crew and run that dump trailer. So I hired my dad back out of retirement to come and help out and manage the crew and run the dump trailer, et cetera, et cetera. And we'd show up at the end of every job. I would literally show up at the end of every job. I'd climb up on the roof. I'd be like, all right, everybody on the roof. And we'd go up there and we'd sweep it off and we'd blow it off and we'd clean out the gutters. And then I'd be like, all right, everybody on the ground. And we'd literally form a sweeping line. And we'd like walk around the house 2 times where everybody be picking up every little piece of stuff to make sure that was clean, right? So that those customers were thrilled with what we did at the end of the day.
Extreme ownership right there. Right?
I literally forced them into a line, guys. I'm not joking. It was just like a sweeper line all the way around the house. And if anybody had more than a handful, we'd go again. So every little piece of scrap paper. But when we were done, those customers were happy, right? They had a beautiful new roof that was perfectly clean. The gutters were clean. The yard was clean. Didn't have any of that in place. Didn't even have a website yet. Nothing existed along those lines. But I got a check, right? And I got referrals, I got a check, and I also, at the end of every job, actually went out to the job when I did that cleanup. I actually wrote the checks to the crew. We paid them every single day, right? They show. I remember one day we showed up and it was funny. We showed up and they're like, because they kept track of their bags and that's how they knew who did how many. They tie a special knot in their bag and they're like, I did this many squares and I did this many squares and I did this many squares, and they added it up and I was like, that's 35 squares. This is only like a 24 square roof. And they're like, oh, so I was like, you guys go talk and you figure this out for a minute. And then come back to me with the real squares. And so they did, and it went along like that for a while. And we moved our install time down from a week to 4 days to 3 days and got them down to like 2 days. That was the best that crew ever did, was like 2 days of roof. But still, that was a lot of pressure on me to keep this one crew busy, like with constant, I had to feed the pipe with having them sell. So then I started looking around, seeing if there's other companies I could sub my crew out to, because I was like getting worn out trying to like do the sales and the insurance negotiation and the billing and, paying the crew every day and sweeping the roof and sweeping the ground. And, I was worn out. I was just looking for a break, just trying to find somebody to sub to, and that wasn't happening. So eventually I was just like, all right, I'm going to hire some sales guys then. Because I was going to do it for, I told other companies, I'd like, I'll do your roof. You don't have to worry about one damn thing. I'll do it perfectly for $110 a square. Right? Now we're like, we don't even pay that to this day, right? So that's why nobody took me up on it, because I was like, I wanted to make some money for the work, right? But, it didn't work out that way. It's okay. And for the better even, right? But back to the point at hand, is that started working, and that commitment to change my life was what really made the difference. Because what I did was I would go out there every Saturday morning. I was up and out the door. You asked my best friend Aaron that I was living with, and he's like, man, you were religious about being gone by 8 a.m. every Saturday morning, so that I was knocking on the first door at 9 a.m. sharp. And I was doing my best to make 2 sales every Saturday and then pick up 1 more during the week when I was out like servicing my customers and neighbor knocking and whatever I needed to do to make that happen. So I was trying to get 3 sales every week and do everything because I was the company. And so then I just started hiring sales guys and started replacing. But the other side of that commitment side was, I also started allowing myself to only watch 1 episode of The Big Bang Theory every night. And for 5 minutes at a time, I would forget about all my problems and laugh, right? At first, it was only 5 minutes, literally, where I was not focused on the negativity in my life. But I laughed for 5 minutes. I had a good time. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't think about my negative things in my life for 5 minutes. I feel happy. That was good. And then I decided, all right, I'm going to add to this. And I was still depressed, but I got up and I said, I'm going to go to the gym every morning. And so I did. I started going to the gym every single morning. And after work, I went to the gym every single night, 6 days a week. I took Sundays off. I did that for about 4 months. And on top of that, then I also decided, you know what, I don't have a social life. I need to change my social life. So I set a goal of doing something social, a minimum of 2 to 3 times per week. And so I joined meetup.com, joined some social groups, and just started going out and I didn't know these people, but I just showed up and was like, screw it, I'm gonna make some friends. I'm depressed. I need to find good, happy things in my life. And I did. And you know what? 3 months later, I was a different human being. The deliberate choices that I made to change my life had a huge outcome. I moved from being a really unhappy person to being a happy person, and my mindset changed. I started to experience success. Everything changed about it. It was night and day. And it took about 3 months for it to get to the point where my emotions caught up with my actions, right? That's how long it took for that depression to go away. 3 months, that's a long time when you're depressed. 90 days of, I'm gonna grind out 2 times a day exercise. I'm gonna get up every Saturday morning. I'm gonna go through 5 days a week. Besides the Saturdays, I'm gonna work Monday through Friday. Trying to make sales and do the insurance negotiation and doing the billing and keeping track of the crew and paying the crew every day and making sure they're cleaning up every day and all the stuff that has to happen. But in 3 months, my life was completely different. I suddenly had money in the bank. I went and bought a truck. I was pretty proud of it. We still use it as a QC truck in Idaho Falls. It's a $4,000 truck. I got to move out of the mouse truck, right? The Bondo mouse truck. I was like, yes. And so, I was jacked. I paid cash for it. I was pretty proud of that. $4,000. Guys, that was 6.5 years ago, almost 7 years ago. Right? So wherever you're at in life, I promise you, and I want you to take this to heart, no matter what you want to achieve in life, if you set your mind to it, you may not get it done in a day, but in 5 years, it will blow your mind what you can do. So be deliberate. Make the choices that you need to make to change your life.
Yeah.